Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode in our webinar series, What Clients Want. Today, we are focusing on architecture, and we're speaking to a Fiverr client who has built a very successful architecture business using Fiverr's freelance talent. Vaughn Dabney is the owner of Unoma Haus, which is a sustainable company focused on better housing options, including van conversions. And Vaughn is also a member, I want to mention, of last year's Future Collective Business Accelerator, which is a Fiverr program that supports early stage Black businesses and founders from around the country. So welcome, Vaughn. And I just wanted to introduce myself as well. I'm Laura Podesta. I work on the PR team here at Fiverr, based in New York, and I'm a former CBS News broadcast journalist. I occasionally put that hat back on and step in to moderate these types of discussions on LinkedIn. But I will also want everyone who's watching to know that they too can chime in throughout this and leave comments and questions for Vaughn or for me, and we'll try to answer all of them near the end of the session. So without further ado, Vaughn, it's so nice to meet you here. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I guess the first question I have is, it doesn't look like you're currently in a van. Are you in one of your converted vans right now?
This is actually not my van. I actually recently sold it in October of last year. So just to give you a little backstory, I was actually living in there for 4 years. So from 2018 to last year, that was my home.
I'm sure it's nicer to have a bit more space now, but are you still missing or interested in the tiny home construction? And is that still what all of your effort is right now?
Yeah. So when I first did the conversion, I really wanted to look at a different way of living, be sustainable, but still be functional in this world. I'm not retired. I'm still young. So I wanted to be active, and it's kind of why I built it. And then I saw the effect it had on people. So I started this company. But moving forward, I absolutely am still interested and involved in building sustainable home options that are small or large, but really focused on reducing the footprint that we have as humans on the earth.
Absolutely. And we see it all the time. We see news about these tiny homes, we see pictures, and it's kind of a lot of questions for people that might be interested in it. They don't know where to start. So you started your own company. You started Unoma Haus. I'm
Yes.
getting that pronunciation right. So how much of that conversion were you able to complete yourself? And then how much of it were you leaning on outside experts, such as Fiverr freelancers?
So I actually built that conversion entirely myself and documented the entire process. But as we started to build out into more traditional homes, we used the Fiverr services, and they came in clutch.
What can you get kind of like into the details for me? What types of talent were you looking for, and which ones really were able to help you out?
Yeah, so we were actually looking for specifically drafts people, so blueprint design, as well as 3D rendering and illustration to kind of show what a final version of the house would look like. And we went through quite a few just to find that right one. And it's a bit of engineering in terms of asking for what you need and want, and asking for the credentials or the background or the experience that that person has. But once you find it, it's really like locking in, and we got what we needed.
Were you working with people primarily in the US, or some architects and engineers from around the world, and kind of getting different ideas based on their own experience in their past projects?
So based on what we needed here in the States as well as abroad for one of our clients in Barbados, it was kind of like a 2-for-1. We needed someone here in the States who understood some of the architectural design laws here, but also we found more experienced and talent in other places. Like I believe our Fiverr talent was in somewhere in the Middle East. So We went with them because they had better rendering skills than the person here in America.
Okay.
And the cost is effective for us as well.
Yeah, of course, you're able to find that price point that you want. So not only did you use Fiverr for this, but you also were a member of our Future Collective program, which for those of you that don't know, it's our accelerator program, and it really helps small businesses reach their potential. How has the Fiverr freelance talent made Unoma Haus what it is today?
I think being a part of that program was unparalleled. I've been a part of a few accelerators, and Fiverr absolutely stood out. I think the most valuable thing that I got from it was the connections to the people in the network within Fiverr, outside of Fiverr, with 1863, and just being able to connect with all of the people who were in my cohort, all of the mentors, and I still keep in touch with the mentors who were part of that program, because it's like a lifelong relationship that you've built in these few months. And I think that was the best thing for me. That was the best part of the cohort.
That's so great. That's such great feedback to hear. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a couple steps back. I'd love to hear about your background and kind of what I know you have a background in software development.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about your education, your early career, and then what was it that kind of led you to pivot into being an entrepreneur and building your own company?
Sure. I mean, it's a great question. Ever since I was young, even in middle school, I had an entrepreneurial mindset. Started my first companies in high school, and I went to school for, actually, funny story, I actually first went to school for architecture. And it became too expensive. So I came home, went to another school, and started learning electronics engineering, but I taught myself how to code. And so my last year, I ended up starting a company, a software company, and that's what I did. I worked for MySpace and kind of did that for the next few years. And I think around 2017 is when I was kind of looking at how can I have an impact? How can I still travel? How can I reduce my footprint? And that's when I built the sustainable solar powered tiny home inside of a truck.
It's so cool. It's a dream I think a lot of people have in their minds, and then it's like, could I actually live in a van? I want to ask more questions about van life in a second, but before, just back to your software background.
Mm-hmm.
As someone with such a technical expertise, I'm sure that you are very discerning when it comes to choosing freelance experts and kind of vetting them. What was that process like when you were on Fiverr, and just making sure that the people you were choosing had the background that you felt comfortable with?
I think the best advice I can give to anyone, because I feel like that's where we're going with this. How do you get the best talent? And you just have to be brutally honest. You have to be honest with what you want. You can't worry about feelings or anything like that, not being rude, but you just have to be straightforward. Here's what I need. Can you do this? You cut down on time of the back and forth, ask for everything that you need up front. And I mean, I pretty much was basically engineering my questions to make sure we got what we needed.
Okay. All right. So let's get back to van life, and this idea of changing lives for the better. And do you believe, I mean, you've said it already on this call, but having a smaller footprint is more beneficial for the world at large. How do you specifically, though, kind of keep that promise to your customers and to yourself?
I think it's always having that in the forefront of my mind, where when we're building, how can we do this efficiently? How can we reduce the footprint? What technology is available out there that we didn't use last year that we can use now to cut down on cost on solar? So we primarily built these vans using solar technology and lightweight batteries, and we try to just keep that theme running through everything we built, and also make it beautiful. So it's kind of like sustainable materials, sustainable energy, and how it all kind of works together.
And then, so I mean, it's great what you're saying, great for the environment, using solar powers, using, harnessing the energy of the sun. But what about for the person living in the van? Do you also feel like there's something beneficial living in a environment where you have less belongings, or you're able to, if you're living with someone else, you're able to connect more because you're literally sharing a one room space? What is kind of the more human sides of the van?
I absolutely believe that you become really focused. You cut down on what you need. The minimalism extends far beyond your physical space. It really goes up into your mind, and you have less clutter, right? So you are able to connect with people a bit more. You are kind of seeing the things that maybe you missed when you lived in a standard apartment or a home. And it really does make you stop and smell the roses.
Did you find that like your mental health was better living in the van
I
compared to living elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty happy person, so I usually don't have bad days, and I'm not trying to be idyllic about it, but
Yeah.
I really try and appreciate what I have and show gratitude every day, and that kind of allows me to be mentally healthy. And we're human, right? Like everyone has their ups and downs, but I do think it helps because you are doing something good for yourself as well as your environment.
Were you moving around a lot, or were you kind of setting up shop with the van in one location, or were you traveling around the US?
Yeah, I was pretty much stationary in Los Angeles, but I had
Hmm.
my Google Maps where I could park, what the time limits were. I had all that set up. I will say initially it was difficult because I had never done that before. So where do you park in LA where you're not going to get bothered? Or where do you park where you're not going to get a ticket? So I really, the first few months were focused on where can Vaughn park. And once I got
Yeah.
that locked down, it was good.
Where can Vaughn park his van?
And it's a big
Um,
truck too, it's a delivery
yeah.
truck. So.
Wow. One of the primary reasons that you founded Unoma House was to diversify the van life narrative. I'm sure that you had some experiences and challenges that white van lifers don't even think about. What are some of the ways that you've been using your platform to educate people on inclusivity when it comes to the nomad community?
I always try and show kind of my experiences wherever I can. If I see discussions happening, if I see comments on other van lifers from
Hmm.
people who are white and aren't really in touch with what it means to be a black man or a black woman or a person of color doing van life and how different it is and where we cannot go. So I always try and lend my voice wherever I see it. Um, in addition, I share when we have, one of my clients was a black woman with two kids, and she was living full time in her van. And that was important for me to talk about that because she's looking for a better way, but she also has two little children, and it's not exactly easy to be in this van. But when I'm building or when I'm talking to her, I'll let her know, hey, here's a place you can park while you're in LA because I know it's safe for you as a black woman with two children. Here's where you can park, right? And so it's important that anyone in the van life community, whether you're white or person of color, if you are aware and in the know, I think it's our job to share that information of particularly safety. That's what it comes down to. Where is it safe for me to
Hmm.
be in my van?
Yeah, such a important point that you're making. And I want to just pause the conversation here for a moment and remind everyone who's watching on socials to please comment and ask questions for Vaughn or myself. We will be answering those questions near the end of the session. And if you're just joining us, and I can take some time to just reintroduce Vaughn, he is the founder of Unoma Haus, which is a sustainable company focused on better housing options, including van conversions, which we've been discussing over the last few minutes. And Vaughn is also a member of last year's Fiverr Future Collective Business Accelerator when he got Fiverr credits, guidance from various organizations. He was part of a cohort of other Black-owned businesses, and they really were working together to uplift each other and to reach their full potential. So Vaughn and I have been discussing van life over the last few minutes. I want to kind of go back to the Fiverr portion of this conversation, because a huge one of the ways, I don't want to say a huge way, but a big part of the way you built your company was with the help of outside experts. I think it's very daunting for entrepreneurs when they start a business to take it all on, and they shouldn't take it all on. They should be staying within their zone of genius and staying within what they know, and then outsourcing to other people that are experts in other various arenas. So Vaughn, getting back to building your business and kind of square one, what do you think was the biggest outside helper, the freelancer that really helped you see more clearly or get something done quicker, that you would highly recommend to other entrepreneurs?
I think actually, as an entrepreneur, you need to identify your weaknesses, right? And that's where you seek help. And so for me, one of my weaknesses was marketing. And so really tapping into that and say, hey, and being honest with the talent. I'm not great at marketing. I have this company. This is what we do. Can you help create social images that we can share? And also, if you have the ability, can you create a marketing copy that we can share on our socials, on our website, whatever it is? I actually had talent who I wanted him to revamp our quote system so people could get more accurate quotes and see how much it was costing as they were getting quoted. And we had somebody build something like that. We were also working on the mobile app side, so getting UI design for the mobile side. It's just so many different arenas where I now can step back and truly be overseer instead of hands-on involved and focus on day-to-day business operations instead. So, I mean, it came in amazing, and it's just there's so much talent on Fiverr, so much, and constantly adding new talent in new categories, and that's what kind of gets me excited too. Is like, how much more can I get done with Fiverr?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased. I work at Fiverr, but I'm just amazed that you can take an idea and you can make it happen by searching for the right experts and hiring them within minutes, really, because you can see their portfolios right there and they are readily available. If they're on the platform, it means they're ready to work. Yep. Were you working with a team of the same freelancers, or did you do did you work with one freelancer for one project and then move on to another? How did you create that workforce?
Sure. Great question. I pretty much created silos. And so for our development side, I worked with one primary developer. If I needed something one-off or specific that was out of this developer silo, I would go to this developer. But I'm a pretty loyal person when it comes to using talent. So if we had a great relationship and you did excellent work, I'm going to use you again. And I always tell the talent that, listen, when this is over, I have something lined up for you, or I'm going to hit you in 2 months to get this done, right? And so I think that helps build the relationships with this talent. Like, we know each other on first name basis, and you build that rapport, and that makes things a whole lot easier because they understand how you work.
And a lot of people who are watching right now are freelancers on Fiverr. So I think they are super interested in this topic. How do you make your client so impressed that they are ready to sign you up for another service before the first one's even completed? You really want to keep that momentum going, keep your client happy. Yep. For you, is it about communication? Is it about deliverables coming early? What makes you think, okay, this freelancer is someone I want again and again?
Sure. I think a couple things come to mind when I think about that. And number one is communication. The ability to understand what I need without me getting frustrated in terms of any kind of barriers of understanding my language or, terminology. And then I think the second thing is definitely honoring the word, right? Your word is everything. So if you say you're going to deliver something to me in 2 days and it takes a week, it's a little disheartening. But if you come to me and go back through the communication channel and say, hey, this is taking longer than expected, it's going to be a few more days, I appreciate that. I'm probably going to use that person again because they're setting my expectations. But I really think it comes down to like that core communication, being able to deliver on time what you said, and just keeping that flow going, and things are easy.
Communication. I'm hearing communication.
Yeah.
What about just that initial spark that you might have with a freelancer? Is it someone who answered your inquiry immediately? Is it someone who had a great gig card, gig image? How do you choose the freelancer?
Yeah, so I think how I choose the freelancer is definitely their responsiveness to a question. How often are they available? And I'm not expecting everyone to be online all the time, but if I reach out and it takes you less than 2 hours to get back to me, I know that you're responsive. And also, if you preemptively answer questions that I may have, that's always a good sign, right? Because it means you've worked with quite a few people to know kind of what people are looking for when they come to your services. And it just makes my job easier in terms of finding out if you can provide what I need.
Were you looking for freelancers that had specifically worked with van conversions, for example?
I was not looking for freelancers who specifically worked with van conversions because I knew I probably wouldn't find that.
It's
However,
specific.
yeah, and it could be different now, but I knew I wouldn't find that. So it was kind of like shifting how I asked for things, or finding, like I said, the marketing aspect, the app development. Those aren't specific to van life per se. And so I could get other things accomplished.
What about sustainability? Were you looking for people that had projects in their portfolio on Fiverr that were focused on the environment or focused on sustainability?
That was another tough category to kind of like seek out specifically. So in terms of when I found talent, I couldn't expect to find the talent I wanted, as well as someone who has done sustainable work or anything like that.
Well, it's heartening though that you in your dream world wanted some
Yeah.
freelancer that was so specific in that category, but yet you still found the right person,
Yeah.
and briefing them, you got what you needed. So I think that's something that maybe freelancers who are watching, or entrepreneurs who are watching, to know that even if you don't use the search bar on Fiverr and get that specific name of a gig, that you can still find what you're looking for and get that expertise that you need, just by giving the freelancer some background information.
Yeah, and I think it's even worth mentioning, if that those people who are providing the service, the talent, can say something about that. If they have done work in the sustainability sector or solar sector, or just that realm, mention it on a bio or mention it in the work that you've done. That would be amazing, because now I can use that search term and bring the profile up.
That's great advice. Again, just to remind everyone who's watching, make sure you leave your comments, leave your questions, because we will be asking more specific questions that you care about near the end of this session. Let's go back to sustainability, Vaughn, because as sustainability becomes increasingly important, can you kind of share? I know you talked about the solar panels, but what are some of the other sustainable practices that you incorporated into your van conversions and modular homes?
Sure. My director of operations, she is really great at seeking out local companies who create products that are sustainable. So it's really looking at, how is this wood made? How is this insulation made? What things does it contain that could be harmful to the environment later on? So kind of looking at a full 360 of all the things that we use, and where we can, we try to shoot for sustainability, right? It's not all the way possible sometimes because we might not get a job done or it might be out of our cost range. But we also tell our clients like, hey, here's a sustainable option. It might be a little more, but it's better for the environment. It's better for you. And we let them choose. But we always, again, keeping that in the forefront of our minds to kind of move forward with sustainability in mind.
All right, I'm going to start sprinkling in some questions that we are getting from people who are watching this. And again, continue to ask your questions in the comment section on LinkedIn. This is from Reinhard. He or she wrote, there are various drawing standards in different countries. I'm assuming for architecture.
Yep.
Is what they're referring to. Are there any universal drawing standards that we can use to hire people from any country and still ensure that the builder will understand it?
So I actually dealt with this specifically, and what needs to be communicated to the talent is that, hey, we're building this house in this country. Are you familiar with the laws there? What needs to happen? For the most part, you can still design and have it altered or modified later to fit the standards of the country that you're building in, or the state. If it's in the US, the state, if it's outside the US, the country, right? You can modify it, but I think having the design is like 80% of it. There are standards like we are dealing with a home in Barbados. You can only use 40% of the land. So it's my job to look up what requirements and stipulations Barbados requires, and then communicate that to the talent to have them design around that however they can with those stipulations.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Question from Alina. She wrote, what took priority in your Fiverr hires? Was it quality of delivery? Was it lead time, or the pricing? Or was it something else, Vaughn?
That's a great question. I think what took priority first was quality of work. And obviously, anyone who's on Fiverr looking for talent looks at reviews, right? What are people saying about your work? And so quality of work, responsiveness, and then the ability to kind of communicate with me to say, hey, yes, I can absolutely do that for you.
And for people who are listening who hire Fiverr freelancers, this is such a good reminder to leave a review that's robust, that's maybe 2 or 3 sentences, that talks about the finer points of what you did for the project or what the freelancer did for the project, not just a great work or kind of short review. So it'll help that freelancer get more work.
Yeah. Yep.
Another question from Muhammad from LinkedIn. He wrote, hey, I'm a professional architect from Pakistan. How can we start our own business from Fiverr? At what stage of our architecture business would you say we'd be able to start our own company?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if Muhammad wants to hire talent to contribute to their architectural services, but I think Fiverr has everything for every level. Whether you're starting out and you need marketing, you need a website, or whether you have had this business for a while and you do need outside drafting services. I definitely saw talent in Pakistan that provided drafting services. So I think it's really like the sky's the limit in Fiverr, and you just search for whatever you need.
Yeah, and also to answer that question from the Fiverr side, we now have Fiverr agencies. So if Muhammad had a couple people on his team and wanted to expand to become a Fiverr agency, there's a pathway to do that, to build your business on Fiverr in that capacity.
There it is.
Okay, we have a question from Anonymous. Are there any other professional backgrounds that could lend themselves to architecture and building projects?
Sure. I think some other backgrounds that can lend themselves to those types of projects would be 3D design services, rendering, the ability to, if you're let's say you are starting an architectural firm, so to speak, or design firm, and you need help ideating a specific house. I am sure there's someone on Fiverr that can help you do that. I mean, it's kind of like, what do I need? And then searching for that. It really,
Mhm.
it's almost like the physical body of what we can do with like ChatGPT or AI, right? Which I know Fiverr is including AI now, but it's like the physical bodies that you need to get the thing done. So it really is incredible what you can find, though.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So we have about 5 minutes left. We're going to be taking one final audience question. As a reminder, the event survey is now available in the chat. And if you take it, those of you who are watching, you're eligible to win Fiverr credits, $100 in Fiverr credits. So that survey will be available for 1 week following the event. We'd love to hear your feedback on this, what you learned, what you wish we would have talked about more, anything, anything you want to say. So please take that survey. Okay, so the last question from our audience to you, Vaughn, is what is a project that you're currently working on? It can be off Fiverr or on Fiverr, that you're really excited about and want to tell us about.
Yes, so we're actually helping one of our clients. We're helping them build a house. Actually, it's 2 houses on their land in Barbados. And so we've gone through blueprints, and we've even submitted to the country, right? And we were denied, and we were told we needed a few things. So we came back, went to the architect and the draft person, had them make some modifications, and we're getting ready to submit again. But that's something I'm excited about. And then also the prospect of working with LA County. We have been in communication with them. We've had a few meetings, and I really want to affect change here locally as well for the people who are unhoused, who live in their vehicles and still work, still have jobs. So those are the two things that I'm most excited about right now.
That's great. Well, we are so excited to know you, to have you be a Fiverr client, to have you on this webinar. We wish you so much success with Unoma Haus. If anyone wants to check it out, it's unomahaus.com. That's UNOMAHAUS.com. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say, Vaughn, or?
Honestly, it's such a pleasure to be here and be a part of the Fiverr community. I know that you guys are there for me if I needed to reach out for anything, but it truly is an amazing organization and company. And again, I'm honored to be a part of that fabric.
Okay. Well, we are so glad to have you, and thanks for joining us, and thanks everyone for watching.